What is going on, friends and fellow artists? This is Matt, aka Mr.E in 3D. And guys, in today's video, I want to go about the process of creating a generic humanoid head to complement the generic bodies I made in a previous video. Now, I'm going to link that video in the description of this one, but essentially the idea is to create a head and a form that I can use for pretty much all projects moving forward. Now, I've stated this previously, all of the characters that I create for this channel are going to have a specific style, a specific silhouette. They're going to be more cartoony in nature, but in essence, the idea is I want to save myself some time out the gate and create these meshes ahead of time so that once I get to each specific character, I can jump straight into the customizing and the specific details of that character. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to move myself to the front area. You can see my cursor is all the way off here to the right. We're going to fix that as we always should. Object, snap, cursor to world origin. And you're going to see a lot of the steps I take out here are pretty much the same initial steps I always take, okay? We're going to add a mesh, a cube. We're going to scale that down a little bit. GZ, bring that up. And then we're going to add our modifier. I'm going to start with a subdivision. And as soon as we get this shape here, one subdivision, we'll go ahead and apply it. And from here, we will go into the actual model itself. Object, edit. We will unselect all of those faces. Z, wireframe. B for box select. All of those vertices on the left side. X, delete the vertices. Let's go Z, back out to our solid frame and see what we see. Good, we have the entire half. We just want to make sure of that. Then we're going to go back into our modifiers and add our mirror. Again, this is the process I use for almost all of my models that I create. Now, after we add the mirror, as always, we want to make sure we check this clipping box, because if we do not, you can see that we can separate the mesh. We don't want to be able to do that. So we want to make sure that we click that box so that that mesh doesn't come apart as we do what we need to do. All right, now we're going to grab these vertices. We're going to shape this up just a little bit. GX, GX. Let's grab these two. That's S for scale along the Y. Pull them together. And then let's just go ahead and grab these and go G for grab along the Z. Bring that down and form ourselves a chin. Now you're going to think that chin is a little extreme, but as I go to subdivide, you'll see that changes pretty drastically. So let's go ahead and add that. Subdivision surface. One more time. And immediately you can see the jaw went from all of this down to this, which is pretty much what we wanted, okay? Now I'm going to change that to 2. I usually work in a 2 preview just to see what I'm doing. Let's take a quick look around, make sure it looks good. This is a pretty decent starting point, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding the details. Now again, we want to strike that balance. We want to make sure that we are creating enough details to help us streamline the process, but we don't want to add too much, okay? So we're going to use this as our eye line. So the eyes would be right in this area. So let's go ahead and add the nose, Control R, one along the top, and bring that all the way in, about there. Let's add a brow line, Control R along the side, bring one here. That's going to basically be just a guide for the brow. Let's add another one here, Control R along the side here. This is going to be our cheek line and the bottom of our nose. So our nose would be these two faces here, and then the cheek would be about here. Let's go ahead and add one more for the mouth, right about here. Perfect. All right, now we want to take a look. Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and try shaping out this nose. So let's go switch over to faces, and let's grab those two that we had decided are going to be our nose. We're going to E for extrude along the Y and pull that straight out, okay? And for the next step, I'm going to actually remove the preview and take it down to its block form. Change the vertices. I'm going to go click, shift, click, M, at last. Let's do the same thing again. Shift, click, shift, select both, M, at last. And there we go, that's the start of our nose. Let's go ahead and go back and see what that looks like in our preview. Pretty good start. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this internal one, these two, and I'm gonna go G, Z, bring this down a little bit. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do another loop cut, but I'm gonna go under the nose. So I'm gonna hit Control R here, right there along that ridge, and then leave it. Now you can see this doesn't go all the way around. That's perfectly fine. The reason why it doesn't is because we did the merging up here, but really up here doesn't matter. It's what we want is down here along the bottom. GY, just bring that out and square that up just a little bit. Actually, let's bring this out too. GY, square that up a little bit. And this is more in kind of just working in case I do decide to use this head model for a more detailed face outside of my current project. It's basically just a placeholder, okay? So if I wanted to make a more, defined nose, what I would do is I would just go here and I would hit E, and I would pull this out, and then I would create the nostril cavities, okay? Now I don't do that for the style of character that I'm creating. If you guys were watching the first character that I created, I didn't have that. It's just basically the shape of the nose. Again, less defined, more cartoony is what I'm going with. So I didn't go through all that, but it's there in case I want it in the future, okay? And we're gonna do that again when I get to the ears. Now when it comes to the brow, I'm not gonna do anything here. And when it comes to the mouth, I'm actually not going to shape the mouth either. And the reason is, again, we want to give ourselves a good starting point, but we don't want to go too far. So if I were to use this face to say, create a goblin, well, the goblins are going to have much larger mouths than the human characters. So I would want this to be left alone so that I could create a giant mouth with the fangs. If I was creating, a female character, a male character, I don't want that mouth to be preformed because maybe I have a specific style that I want for each of those, okay? When it comes to the eyes, if you guys have been following along, I have a completely separate file that I have created all of the eyes for the style and the characters that I'm going to be creating. And what would happen is I would go ahead, and when this was done, when I started creating the specific character, I would go over to that file, select the eyes I want, and then import them into the file and move them into position. So that is essentially what I plan on doing moving forward. So eyes and mouth, I'm not going to detail. And in complete honesty, if I were creating a more detailed character, chances are pretty good I would want to do that unique to each character anyway. Our eyes are unique, our mouth shapes are unique. I would want that form to be unique to each character, so I would probably do that individually anyway. Also, if I was doing, say, taking this character, and let's just say I did decide that I wanted to create a character for animation, I would create a completely unique and different mouth style-wise than what I'm currently creating for this project, because I would be adding an armature, I would be weight painting the jaw, I would be making the face with the potential of movement. And when I'm doing this, for all intents and purposes, for the sake of this channel, everything I'm creating is going to be stuck in one pose, so I wouldn't have to worry about that. I hope all that makes sense. Okay, so as I go into here, let's go back out to object mode. And as you can see here, we're getting a little bit of creasing and a little bit of bunching of vertices here. And there's a reason for that. And I wanted to show you guys that and explain that, okay? So when we go into here and we're looking at our faces, you can see through the subdivision that all of these little faces in here would be how it would be subdivided, okay? That subdivision happens over all of the faces. So as I create loop cuts, I'm creating new faces that would be subdivided further. So as an example here, you can see, just looking at this forehead, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe that would be over here. But you have 5 rows and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So you have 5 rows of 5, you have 25 faces in here, okay? That's the same number of faces is in this face, okay? So 25 here, 25 here. The difference is that in this, they're bunched up, okay? And you can see it if you look close enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 faces. So that is where that creasing or that smushing of vertices and faces is coming in. It's very easy to fix. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick, okay? Now we can't do too much with the nose. We have to leave the nose where it is, but we can fix the rest of it. And the way that we do that is this. I'm going to select all the faces all the way around and watch on this side what happens when I do what I'm about to do. GX, just spread them out. And look at how more round and more organic that does. Okay, and you can see down here we have kind of the same thing going on along the back of the head. We can fix that too. We're going to grab that, we're going to go GZ, I'm going to grab and spread those all out evenly. GZ, GZ, and you can see how that makes the entire head shape more round, which is what we want. Let's do the same thing along the jaw. We just have to grab these two really for the jaw. GX, pull this out, spread those out nice. And what this also does for the jaw, this actually gives us a nice reference for where the mouth would go. So if I wanted to make a wider mouth, I could just grab this vert and move it out, and you could do that. This is basically that line that runs from the side of your nose down to the edge of your lip, and you can use that as a reference, and you can create the mouth however you want. It's a nice little reference to have there. Okay, so other than that, this is all looking pretty good. Our nose is formed, and if I wanted to make a bigger nose, I could just grab faces and grab X, make the nose bigger. If I wanted the nose to be smaller, I could grab and make the nose smaller. I have a great starting point for all of that, okay? And again, the only other thing we're gonna do for the sake of this video is create the ears. So using our eye line that we decided on earlier, we're going to come out here, and if you look in a mirror, you'll notice the inner ridge of your ear, the top of it, actually does line up with your eye. So that's how we're going to go about design this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the knife utility, okay? And I'm going to hit K for knife, and you can see the cursor changes immediately to a knife. I'm going to draw one line up to this, enter, and do the same thing over here, enter, and then I'm going to do the same process on all sides, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line inside creating the same number of vertices on the inside, okay? From there, you're going to notice there's a little bit of crimping here. If I was to push this up maybe more, you might be able to see it. It's not too bad. Okay, good. What we'll do is we don't want to have these outside vertices just kind of hanging out there without the connection to another vertice or line. Okay, so we'll just create this. And we'll just do this process. Bring it up here to the top of the head. And there we go. Okay, so now we kind of have this backwards C shape. Now you can connect this and make one big O shape. I don't do that, and only because it just reminds me to select the correct faces. It's just a habit. Either way works. So let's go ahead and select these faces, okay? And I'm going to go E along the X, and I'm going to pull that out. I don't want to pull it too far, okay? Now I'm going to hit Control R along the extruded surface, bring that one in, and then I'm going to Control R again, and bring this one out. And this basically allows us to make the ears a little bit wider. If we want, that's good enough. We'll just leave it like that for now, okay? And from here, what I'll do is I'll go back into vertices, and I'm gonna do the same thing to the ear that I did with the nose. Watch what I do. I go 1, 2, 3. So I'm shift clicking 1, 2, 3. M at the last. 1, 2, 3. M at the last. Do the same thing on the bottom. 1, 2, 3. M at the last. 1, 2, 3. M at the last. And that is going to bring those ear shapes in and connect it to the rest of the body of the head. All right. I'm going to use my knife utility again, K. I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Again, you could have done this out the gate. It's just a habit that I have. here to here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that face. And I'm going to E along the X and pull just this tiny little nub out. And GY. And then S, scale it down. It's going to give us that little nub that we have on all of our ears right before it turns into the actual ear. Now for my projects, if you were doing a more detailed version of the head, again, just like I added the nostril, you could add the ridging in the ears. It's perfectly fine. I don't do that. Number one, it doesn't match the style that I've created for my characters. Number two, since all of my projects are based around the idea of 3D printing, I have found when I try to print out different heads with different levels of detail, for some reason the ear details at the scale that I print them, they just never come out. So I don't spend the time to do that. So I'm just going to scale this in and then G for grab on the X and pull it in a little bit. And just scale that out, okay? At this point, our ears are pretty much formed for this generic head. I could absolutely I could grab these faces and I could do more detail. I can make them, thinner. If I was creating an elf character, I could just grab these heads and make pointy ears. I can make giant ears, smaller ears, whatever I decide. I'm going to keep that shape as basic as possible. I will go ahead and fix these two because I don't really see anybody ever having earlobes like that. But other than that, guys, that is pretty much all I'm going to do. Now, you could definitely decide, hey, I want a male and a female head, and maybe you come in and you soften out the jawline. You go through the process of creating a female head versus a male head. You could absolutely do that. I should be able to do all of that with this existing head. I could absolutely go in and create and just duplicate this out and make a male and female version. There's no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I may do that eventually. I don't know. The idea here is I have this as a good starting point. And what I may find, and it's the same thing as working with these unique bodies, what I may find is I'm doing one thing every time I work with this character. And if that's the case, then what I would want to do is come into the file where I keep these models and do that specific change so that I wouldn't have to do it moving forward. But I would only want to do that change when I realize it applies to everybody. I hope that makes sense. And guys, you will see I did not add a neck. I do not add a neck here typically. I won't usually do that until I get to the posing process of the unique character. I find just personally, it's easier to draw the neck out by extrusion once I have the character in the position that I want them in, and then I can just extrude and move the neck directly into position. But guys, that is going to be it for now. Again, thank you all so much for the support that I am seeing. Please like, share, subscribe. Feel free to give me a comment if you guys have different techniques that you use. Thank you again so much. You'll have a great day.